Hello everyone, my name is Kyle Cherek and I am delighted to be here hosting the Madison College Chef Demo Series presented by Vollrath with a chef, the only chef, a buddy of mine that has his own day, Graham Elliot Day, September 19th.
Yeah, right? Absolutely.
In Chicago.
Right.
But that's just a little small thing. So years of network television from Iron Chef, Top Chef, Junior, Family Food Fight, a handful of James Beard nominations, which is incredibly hard to do when you're cooking in that region. Probably the most competitive, if maybe only compared to New York, I would say. Yeah, where you were nominated, so way to go.
Thank you.
Yeah, cooked for President Obama. Some people have heard of him, 49th birthday.
Yeah.
Right before the 50th, very on the edge.
Yeah, exactly, right?
No pressure.
It's the last, you know, hurrah.
Yeah, exactly. And just a slew of other accolades. So thanks for being here.
Thank you, absolutely, Ken. Always good to see you, buddy.
So I want to talk about your path, because we're sitting in a gorgeous space.
It's incredible.
Madison College, culinary school, and you're the product of a culinary school.
Yep.
Johnson & Wales,
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Yeah. So why? And I mean, then we'll get more into your path,
Sure.
but why? Because there's, 3 or 4 different avenues.
Right, yeah, so for me, my dad was in the Navy. We moved all over the world, and, by the time we got to Virginia Beach, I was 17, I'd gone to 3 high schools, and I knew I wanted to do something where I could use my hands. So I went down the street, got a job at the restaurant, started as a busboy and dishwasher, fell in love with that, pirate ship atmosphere of a kitchen, right? Where it's like anarchy, but a little controlled.
A typical story, and I mean that in a great way. Like it's just you get the buzz.
Yeah. And so part of me's thinking, well, do I want to, go to this school? Do I want to, be a plumber? Do I want to join the military? Whatever. And being in the kitchen, the chef I was working for had gone to Johnson & Wales at their local Norfolk, Virginia campus.
So
and
huge.
I just fell in love with that, and I was like, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And so went to culinary school, and by the time I graduated in '97, I just turned 20, and I felt I was already on the path. Like I had friends that are, 30 still working at the bike shop or Starbucks, one day I'll get out of my mom's basement, but it's cool.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm on it. I know what I want.
And you cooked in some really great, more like institutional kitchens, and I mean that in a good way, but resorts and that sort of thing. And then it wasn't Charlie Trotters first, maybe Avenues beforehand. Like, tell me about how'd you get to Chicago? How'd you land all those, what turned out in retrospect to be incredibly sweet, formative, crucial, like lucky stars.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, you're as good as the people that you work with, right?
Exactly.
And so I was 18 working at the Omni Hotel and doing banquets. And then the chef I was with was like, look, you can continue doing this, or you can do something more high end. This is where you decide what chef you want to be. So I went to the local restaurant that was doing the highest end stuff, right? So I went from using, chopped romaine to, Belgian endive, which I thought was the coolest thing in the world. It comes in a box with purple paper. Right. It was amazing. So I'm doing that, and then it's foie gras, which only read of in the craziest books, and I'm like, here it is.
Yeah.
So you're
Navy
making,
kid, you do not have foie gras.
No, but we had dog in the Philippines and octopus in Hawaii. I had the craziest stuff, but I didn't have any of those things. But
so you were all Zimmern way before Zimmern was doing that.
Yeah. He was getting paid to do it. I didn't mind. It was just because I was experimenting.
Yeah.
So
anyway, Belgian endive.
So and the thing is, you can make 10 an hour working at this place or 3 an hour working at this place, but it's there's only 4 of you in the kitchen, so it's you're one of the Beatles. I had the most amazing bragging rights going to culinary school. When people were like, oh, you work there? That's sick. That's amazing. And being exposed to like-minded chefs and seeing cookbooks, one of the biggest one was seeing Trotter's cookbook.
Sure.
I eventually go and do my internship in Dallas, Texas, and then work at the mansion on Turtle Creek. Charlie Trotter comes and does a chef dinner there, and I'm like, I will work for you. That's my goal.
Yeah.
And then,
that guy. I want to work for that guy.
Yes, that guy, the evil one with the glasses, that, stares at you like this as you're telling him you want to work for him.
Only Charlie Trotter could sell his wine collection to Sotheby's, not be happy with the price that they put it up for auction, and then buy it back. I mean, anyway,
I've seen so
you
so
work for him,
many stories. Oh my God.
Right, that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yes,
but
amazing.
Yeah, when
stuff.
people they don't quite understand, I'm like, let me just tell you this quick little. Anyway, so that's the guy you want to work for.
That's who I work. Yeah. So within a year, I moved to Chicago. I'm 20, and get this thing where you stage, right? So you're working for free for 3 days, and it's
fancy
dating.
French word that means work for free.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I get to see what they're about, they see what I'm about. I literally was in a corner cleaning chanterelles for like 15 hours a day, but I could not believe that I was in that kitchen. Like you go from looking at books and you see all the romantic, beautiful pictures of like the address up close and the kitchens, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, that's the thing in the book, that's the stove, you know, that's the, and for them to say, sure, you can move here and you know,
still
start
work
on
for
this
free.
day. Yeah, basically. You know, we were paid by the day, we got like $70 a day, and you didn't clock in or out.
I always heard that, but I never have had a chef tell me face to face that it was this like super old guard European. Like that's that's actually illegal in certain countries in Europe now.
Right.
But he was like, well, it's not illegal here, and this is how I do it.
And the whole thing was like, some places like Ducasse, you are almost paying him to be able to be in the kitchen.
Right.
You know, so
right.
this was, you're taking more from that experience than he ever is getting from you. Like you're lucky he's even paying you. So
Rick Tremonto, who's one of your mentors, but has been in this program, has that great story in his biography where he's like storms out of wherever, needs a job. He's higher on the pecking order, but he walks into the back of Charlie's restaurant and he's like, Charlie, I need a job. He's like, well, $70 a day, start on the carrots.
Yeah.
And there's so many things I adore about that. One is that within the chef code, like you have to be as good as you say you are immediately or everybody in the kitchen knows.
Yeah.
And you know, you could still walk into the back of a kitchen and be like, yeah, I was just running a restaurant, but I walked out on those owners.
Right.
And the chef's like, respect, but I need those carrots cleaned.
Yeah, I think that's what's so great is it's all, you know, merit-based. Like, just like in baseball, I love baseball.
I know, we're both baseball, yeah.
And the fact, like, you can look at Tony Gwynn's son, Pete Rose's son. These are guys that have, like, the most incredible legacy.
Yeah.
They don't make it to the majors.
It
Because if you're good, you're good. If
Yeah.
you're not, and so in a kitchen, it doesn't matter who you are, where you were. I've seen people that, you know, the exec sous chef of this place that comes to a restaurant, and in a week they're gone because if you can hang, then you can stay. You can work here. If you can't, nobody cares. You know, any of your real background unless you come in and you're humble, you're willing to work hard, say yes, chef, and like learn. That's it.
You cooked all over Europe. It just means you've traveled Europe.
Exactly. I mean, it really does. Nobody cares.
Yeah, it doesn't mean okay. What can you do now?
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so you get to Trotters, and you're just soaking up all this, which is what he did, which is what he expects you all to do. How long were you there, and like, what is that edifying experience really like?
It was incredible because while you're there, you're surrounded. It's like being on the Yankees. You're surrounded by such greatness that you're getting beat up, and you don't realize until you leave what level you're at. Right.
Okay.
So almost
interesting. Sure. Like, so you have no concept. You're in the bubble.
You're just getting beat up, and you're like, I'm the worst chef in the world. And then you go to another kitchen, and you're just like sweeping every second, wiping down, helping the other person, coming up with menu stuff. So I left and went to True with Rick Tremonto and Gail Gann. And within 2 weeks, a sous chef was leaving, and I got put into that spot. And then like 6 months later, the chef de cuisine left, and I moved into that spot. And I was like, I think this is like 22, 23, and I'm running that with
Well, you come
Rick.
from a military family, so you understand being chosen via Army style or Navy style, like somebody's out, you got to step up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and every chef that I know has either evolved one of two ways. One, because they were ready, but they didn't get a chance. But they were like creatively, soul, skills, they were ready.
Right.
Or they didn't know they were ready, like you, and then you were pulled up,
Right.
and the role was there.
Right.
Yeah.
And for me, it was an amazing opportunity because True, which is with Let Us Entertain You, it's basically like Trotters, but with systems and finding a way to actually make money. You know what I mean? Like there's a food cost. At Charlie's, it's like, hey,
Melvin's kind of particular.
Totally. But at Trotters, it's like, hey, you know, I got like 20 pounds of white truffles coming in. Let's see what we want to do. Whereas at True, it's like, we got 2 grams and we're charging this, and that's going to get us this, you know, much to the bottom line. And and so that was amazing to learn too. But the systems and the way the kitchen's set up. But what's interesting is even if your skill set is here, your emotional growth is at a different level. And so I'm young, and you know, chefs, so much is driven by ego. And like we were, you know, saying on the side, you want people to like you. You want to be recognized. This is before TV stuff, but you just want other chefs to say they like you.
You want to be
come to the
loved,
restaurant.
really.
Right. So when Colicchio comes in to eat at the restaurant, everyone's on, like, that's all day we're talking about the menu, what we're doing. Who's
You're
going
doing
to the table,
strike-off dishes.
Totally.
Just
everything.
so that it tastes,
Yes.
exactly.
And the poor guy, 7 hours later after 100 dishes, he's probably like, I hate you guys, don't ever do this. But what happened is I was 22, 23, and you have cooks that are 30, and that dynamic of the minute they question you, it was like, go home, I'm gonna work your station. Like everything was me feeling I had to prove it. And you know, if you don't call me chef, then, you know, then.
Did you ever just crack when you got home, just like break down in tears and in a bottle of whiskey and a like video game, what like just like just something where you're like, I can't.
Not at that phase, but I left Chicago for a year and was a chef in Vermont at a 15-room bed and breakfast. That's where I got Food and Wine's Best New Chef, which allowed me to come.
That's where it began.
Yeah, and that allowed me to come back to Chicago to get a chef job at Avenues at the Peninsula. Right? There was such an expectation coming back to the city where Grant Ackett's my buddy, and Giuseppe and Matthias and Trotter, all those people are there.
Phil Vitale is lovely but unsparing.
Right, all those people. And so my whole thing was like, I need 4 stars, I need this. These are the things I want. And
and it's only the Peninsula.
Right, and the 3rd day I was there, the ambulance had to come and take me out to the hospital because I thought I was dying with a heart attack, and it happened a couple times, and I found out it was panic attacks.
Yeah, panic.
And so then I got medication and everything, but I've never experienced that, and it was because all you're doing is thinking anyone in this state, is going to be a food writer, and I don't know who it is, and they're going to judge me, and then I got a 4-star review, and then you throw it to the side, and you're like, okay, I can sleep tonight, but now the Sun Times are going to come in.
Right.
And what are we going to?
Right.
And it's so hard to literally live with that, and you know what I mean, and put up with it when that's your goal. You know?
So what does one do after that? Do you regroup? Do you say, okay, we got it this year? I know you don't fold, but like, how do you pivot? Because the human soul can only stay at that level for so long.
I mean, and that's what happened. I think I physically would start breaking down. Right. But what was interesting?
We saw it with Bickelhop, we saw it with Grace, we saw it with Kurt. I mean, it's just.
Absolutely, because this isn't what we do, it's who we are. You give your life over to this thing, right? And so after work, a lot of people will go to the bar. We would just go out and talk about food and the next menu and like texting all the time. It was just
that's what saved you.
And every second was just focusing on that. And you would achieve things, but that's when, for me, it became less about just getting ratings, and it was competition. It was like Gourmet's coming out with the 50 best restaurants issue, and I'm doing everything in the world to be part of that. And then I'm not, and it's like 6 months of crying at home. It's like, that was my life. That defined me, and somehow I wasn't, but Trio did, or Trotters got it, and we didn't. Like that stuff
That's great
would kill
for your
me.
psyche.
Like, it's amazing. Yeah, exactly. So, but you get older, right? And you mature and you kind of relax a little more and you try to have a bigger picture. You're married, you have kids, you do your own restaurant and stuff like that. And, it makes more sense. But I guess you get that out of your 20s. And it's not just in a kitchen. I mean, it could be TV, architecture, painting, writing, whatever. Like that is you making your mark while you can. And so.
And you were an angry young man.
I'm an angry old man now.
Well, you were much more vocal about it at the time.
I mean, you like wear your heart on your sleeve like, to a fault, right? And so this is pre-Trump. He copied me, right? That's what I'm saying. Is like, so you call me out, I'm absolutely fighting back. Like I am the sourest of grapes. You know, like I don't care who it is. I'm absolutely gonna go and use my microphone and just fight back. And I don't know if it's good or bad, but now you see other restaurants and other people and politicians, everyone kind of doing it. But at the time, I think, it was probably.
You were one of the originals within the Chicago scene. Grant's always been very gentlemanly and quiet. I always look back and there was that certain period, I'm like, well, there's Graham and there's the Joie guys, and they make a lot of noise. And I kind of look forward to it, but I also like,
But what's funny is it wasn't even for like attention, because I'm the first to say I love attention. But it was, so the first one was when we did Lollapalooza. We had Rick Bayless or Paul Kahan. These chefs come into the restaurant to show off the food that we're going to do at Lolla, and we invited 20 food writers. And it was just like off the record fun seeing what we do. And Chicago Magazine sent like the 20-year-old intern that judged every dish and wrote about. And so that's when I just wrote like, F Chicago Magazine in all caps, tweeted it, and it became this big thing. And I didn't know it was.
I didn't realize that's where it began.
Yeah, and so that turned into this big thing.
Sure.
And then
all for lobster, like lobster
corn
roll.
dog. Yeah, exactly.
Lobster corn roll. I got a stick.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Steve Dolinsky.
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah.
He ate at Trotters.
Guy.
Yes. And he got a free meal from Trotters. And Trotter gave him all this stuff. It was this whole thing. As he's eating, he's live tweeting how bad everything is. Oh. This is salt. Why is this cold? Who would even serve? So I was so livid, and he came to my restaurant, and I just kicked him out. I'm like, you can sit here, but we're never giving you food.
Right.
Like, you got to go.
Yeah.
And so Charlie would call me and be like, thanks for having my back, and things like that.
Sure.
But to me, that's the joy of if you have your own business. Like, you can fire the customer.
To make a long story short, you coalesce some investors and you move into Graham Elliot, which still was so formative for me. And I have to thank you. I was a new, young host. I don't know if I was young, but I was a new host. And we passed, you didn't really know who I was. Anyway, I came in and I sent the card back to the kitchen, and you sent out some champagne and a course or two. And I was like, this guy's on the arm because he has no idea, but it's just food respect.
Yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, that was, you didn't have to, but you did anyway years ago. Yeah.
I mean, we always, anyone that's, it's not a business, it's not an industry, but in this lifestyle, right? You always want to tip your cap and great, or invite him into the kitchen for, a little tour, whatever it is.
Yeah,
so.
You'd left and I can't do the kitchen, but anyway.
Yeah.
So how do you find your voice with an eponymous restaurant in what was forming into, or was, you can argue years, but the single most engaging food city in America at that time? It had eclipsed New York.
Right.
And it had more than San Francisco. They had, and some crazy stuff going on in the hills and things like that. But I mean, no pressure again.
Right.
But how do you find your voice?
For me, we always say that's the most important thing with music or whatever, finding your voice. So I love art, and I would take the cooks to the museums and get inspired and say, okay, look at Pollock, look at Liechtenstein, and look at Mondrian, and they started out this way and then evolved into this, and so, it's a constant evolution of what we're doing, and the idea has to be based on spontaneity. So, the season changes every day, how we're feeling changes, and what do we want to make right now? So a carrot, right? Say you get this gorgeous carrot, farmer grew it, brings it to the market, you're dusting off the dirt. And traditionally it's let's peel it, let's dice it, let's whatever. And to me it's like, wait, nature gave you this beautiful cylindrical long thing. Why would you turn it into what a machine would make it in? So it can be carrot juice, carrot salad, pickled, roasted, grilled, carrot cake, and no one is better than another. Now step back and turn every ingredient into that, and then think of the season, and then do your arrows of this with the, okay, so celery root bisque, but tomorrow it's, a celery root slaw with this, and the way we had the kitchen laid out was like a band, where we didn't have a saucier and, a rôtisseur, and then they bring the dishes. It's, you oversee these 3 dishes, you oversee the 3 fish ones, and from ordering, prepping, cooking, cleaning down, all of that. So if we ran out of lemons, you didn't order enough, you're going to the store to get them, because that's your restaurant. You know what I mean?
Okay,
and so, but that's why these people would come in and be like, I want to come in at 10, I want to get this done. And the other thing is, well, if you're set up, tomorrow you can come in at 2. I don't need to schedule you.
Right.
You know more than I do. And same thing with fish. I don't want to have to dictate the whole menu all the time. You should be the one talking to the fishmonger and saying, you know what, monkfish is coming in this week. What if we switched the skate out to that, and then we'll do an olive puree instead or whatever, and it'd be awesome, let's try it out, let's do it.
So that's brilliant and elegant, but people have egos. Chefs love the term chef-driven, and they're trying to find their own voice. So how do you keep that from going off the rails and still being Graham Elliot at Graham Elliot?
For me, I think it's team-driven, not just chef-driven. My deal, I think, is stepping back, and you might know this with the TV world, right? If you're a cook, you're worried about that dish. You're a chef, you do the menu. When you start owning something, it's the lighting, and I don't like this, and why is that silverware out of place, and we need that, and
Music should be louder.
Yeah, exactly. And the food part is super important, but I want my team to be able to contribute and feel like they're doing it. So if I open a new restaurant, any of those people can go and be the chef of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like all of a sudden you get a title and your name on a coat and now you care and you're a chef, But it's the same thing with TV. I fell into it and I'm only worried about competing or just judging, and then you step back and you're working with someone like Gordon, and you're looking at like story and building characters, and what if, you know, we'll bring two of them down but then send one home, but really we're switching it and the other goes home, and then we're gonna, and so you're looking at this entire thing of like entertainment and how to make some you know, really engaging stuff. And so that's the thing, is you do in one part put your ego aside with the food, but you're also doubling down on it with everything else. So someone doesn't like the lighting, it's my problem. Someone doesn't like the uniform, it's me that they're going to call out.
The T-shirt in this case.
So the idea with that was no hierarchy. There was no positions and titles.
Right.
Bussers, dishwashers, chef, you know, everyone wore jeans, Chuck Taylors, and a T-shirt. Like it was one glass, one plate from IKEA, a fork and knife. Didn't matter what drink you ordered or wine or anything. It was.
I still remember the medical beakers pouring out my soup.
Yeah, I'm like, that sounds fun. Let's get them.
Why,
why not?
So I mean, this is kind of badass. I like,
Again, it's like, who's going to tell you not to? Right? It's like, I dare you.
Exactly. You get all that, and that happens, and there's lots of accolades and a bunch of the stuff that I talked about before. You become Graham Elliot to the rest of the world than just the chef world. Two things. One, this is an equipment conversation, and we got to talk about, you know, equipment, because Vollrath is a lovely sponsor, and they're a 140-year-old company in Wisconsin that makes beautiful things for chefs. So what are your jams? What are the 5 things you don't want to do without if you're on a desert island but have to cook for Lollapalooza? And how does one keep their sanity in 20 words or less as they transition from that to TV personality, where no one, all the people that watch you will never have your food? Like it's an impossibility.
Right. Which is funny because everyone's like, "You're my favorite chef." They have no idea what I've ever made, like ever. So, but as far as equipment, you know, it's just like as a chef, you need to know how to saute, roast, grill, braise, you know, whatever. It's a
the
great,
5 food groups.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So a great nonstick, you know, something like a nice grill, a beautiful rondeau, you know, just certain things like that. You know, maybe. A slicer, you know, a combi oven, whatever, like certain things that you have in your kitchen and you know that you're going to be able to go to them all the time, right? But it's funny because you can have all this nice equipment, but also at the end of the day, every real cook that's clocking in and out is looking for 9 pans, you know, half hotel pans, racks and stuff like that, which are worth their weight in gold. So, you know, it all depends on what level you're at.
Rick talked about bowls. He's like, if I could just get a great bowl, like, you know?
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. It's like you go right in. And well, what's amazing here with the school is doing this demo and going back with some of the instructors and looking at equipment. There's like nothing you don't have, right? You got like a choice of 1 million pans, pots, this. So it was amazing to walk in here and have everything I needed right away for the demo. Like a lot of times you go to other places and it's hunting for like one pot, you know, for
I wasn't.
2 hours.
This is a favor you're doing, and it's really for the culinary students. But dude, I wasn't going to drag you into the wilderness.
No, I appreciate it.
I'm not going to do that to a friend. Like,
Thank you.
That's not cool.
Right? No, that's
it's not like some.
That's your new show you're pitching. We're going to bring him in, and I'm going to film him on the side where we have one knife and a tongue.
Yeah, it's actually a 4-H fundraiser, but we're going to cook some food. So you're a famous restaurateur. You got people booking out for weeks. You have no problems. And then, I mean, TV has ruined people's lives. Let me just say that. It doesn't seem to have ruined your life. You're still married.
Yeah.
You have 3 kids. You seem, you know, all the outward indications of being a happy, moderately well-adjusted person. You know, like, how do you transition? How do you stay sane? Like, what boundaries did you put in there for yourself? Just what was that like?
It's crazy because it started when I was at Avenues and literally calling and writing the Food Network 100 times, wanting to be on Iron Chef.
Okay.
And finally getting the okay and doing it.
Yeah.
And then Top Chef asking me to do Masters and doing that, and then having, you know, worked with Gordon before, he's doing Master Chef, asked me to come out.
Yeah.
We did a little camera test. And there, like 4 days later, I'm in LA to film.
Yeah, because they waste no time. They're like, if this works, you're in.
Yes.
Boom.
And so.
Yeah. Or we never call you back again.
You're right. Thank you.
Dead to me. Yeah. Talk to the hand. Yeah.
So it was just so wild. And in my head, it's okay. Life is super short, right? The world's 6 billion years old. If you're lucky, you live to be like 80 or 100. It's gone. So sure, let's go. We go to LA and film, and then there's another season, and then they were doing Junior, and now it's gone from 12 to 20 episodes, and now it's been 10 years and it's still going. And it's so weird because
you're having a talking heads moment of like, how did I get here?
Yeah, it's
Right,
doing the dance. Yeah, but it's like, I'm sitting there and thinking like, yeah, what's going on? And it can end at any time, right?
Yeah.
Like, remember supermodels in the late 80s?
Yeah.
And now they're nowhere, right? Because you have celebs took over all those advertising things. So are chefs cool for another year and then it's like hairstyle competitions or tattoo, comps, whatever it is.
No, chewing gum influencers, like you don't know. They could take
it's gonna be all Instagram-based shows. You know? So really, you go with it while you can, but I had no idea it would be this long. And so I'm still kind of doing that, like.
Amen.
Right? I mean,
I'm feeling that, yeah.
And the thing is, cooking's amazing, right? I still love it, it's what I do, but doing TV is so fun. Doing demos, talking to people, going to events, that's amazing because at the end of the day, and this is something that I learned, with Gordon, you can cook for 100 people in your restaurant, talk to them, please them, make them happy, or you can do it in front of 5 million people on network television and do the same thing and try to teach or inspire and whatever and communicate your vision. And it's super rewarding. You know what I mean? And I don't have to act. I don't have to be like the mean guy.
No,
like,
you're
I'm
you.
nice to a fault. I can just do what
Gordon's
I do.
a character. We all know he's not like that. Well, if we know him, he's not like that in real life. But you're you.
I'm me, and so I just feel like so lucky that I get to be part of it, while it's still around.
How do you manage? How do you do 2 restaurants? When you emailed me back, it was like, greetings from China.
Right. Right. What the
I'm changing diapers. Like, wow, Graham's in Macau. All right.
Right.
So you've got one in Macau, and then you've got one in Santa Monica.
Yeah.
You're right down the street, per se, from Dave Barron. Yeah.
Underneath him.
Underneath him.
We're like the floor under.
Amazing. Another buddy from Chicago.
Yeah. And I mean, we sold the one in Chicago on Randolph, and the thing is, the lease is coming up, and that street, when we took it like 8 years ago, was this much, and they literally, someone bought the building, they're quadrupling the rent. And we're like, can't, So another group's gonna come in and buy next door, so I still wanna do something, because I live in Chicago, and a lot of people think I'm in LA, but I mean,
no, you're
I'm in LA to film, but I live in Chicago like 50 weeks a year or whatever.
Right.
And so I'd love to do something, but I think,
don't you have like a super pink house or something?
Yeah,
okay.
Right?
That's what
Mellencamp, Casa Mellencamp.
That's what somebody told me, Okay.
Well, my thing is like Chicago, right? I lived 6 years in Hawaii. I love that weather. Chicago's a little different. And the idea is if it's gonna be gray from like October to May, I want something bright to go home to every day. So it's a pink house.
Nice, I got it.
But I think as you grow and move and do other things, whether it's new restaurants, books, a show, you're not gonna be there all the time. All of it is instilling the philosophy, of what you do to your team, and so that it's able to get conveyed to the guests, not just the menu, but the whole spirit of it. How can we break the rules? How can we have fun? How can we make it a cool place to hang out and have great food? And I think that it's worked. So,
I mean, my hat's off to you to doing casual and California cuisine as a guy who's, you traveled all over, but a guy who's not born, they get very picky about that. You're not born and bred in California, and you're kind of saying, hey, here's my version. So,
and one thing, talking to that, I love how the Midwest is opposite, right?
Yeah.
Like I always say, so in New York, right, say you got, Bryce Harper. He gets traded to the Yankees. Everyone's gonna boo and hate him because that's what they did to me when I moved to New York, and my dad yelled, that whole thing, until he finally proves himself. Chicago, or Milwaukee, you get him, and the next day everyone's got his jersey on.
We'll take everybody, right?
Totally,
Exactly.
We love it. Oh my God, he chose Chicago.
Yeah.
So when a chef leaves a restaurant and opens their own thing there, everyone support. They do not like someone moving in and trying to say well, in New York we do it this way, so we're excited to teach Chicago about
interesting
food. Then you're destroyed. But if you're humble, I think that goes so far in this part of the country.
Do you think that you would have been that way earlier in your career, or it took all this to learn that?
Oh no, I was I feel maybe it was the military upbringing, but humility, respect, courage, generosity. These are the tenets you live by, and so I've never had a problem yes, chef, yes, sir, that whole kind of thing. But I do feel very much like parental with my team, that if somebody comes and attacks anything, I have to, because they're looking at you, right? And if it's the writer says the celery root soup was wrong, but really it was cauliflower soup, you can't just be well, we don't want to say it. The guy making it all day is what the, are you kidding? And so you have to step up and be it's like the coach in baseball, right? There's a bad call, even if he knows it was like you have to defend your players, you get ejected, whatever. But if you don't, your team is never gonna like.
You got to kick sand on the umpire's shoes. You got to.
The
Billy
all
Martin
the food
move.
writers
Always
kick sand and salt on them.
I love it. We met through the food pollination. Yeah. And came back together through a chef buddy of ours who cooks for the Milwaukee Brewers.
Yeah.
And you're kind of a baseball. And
yeah.
And you're very much a Cubs guy. So when he told me that you two were hanging out together, I'm like, was that cool?
Yeah.
How was that, Seth? And he's done this series. It's fantastic.
Love him. Yep.
Love the guy. Yeah. Talk about all the folks that you've crossed paths with in this last, 24 years or something.
Right.
Yeah.
What's amazing is when any chef, so to backtrack real fast, when I was at Vermont, right, at that little inn, I would go and forage, and I found all these mushrooms, and I brought them back to the restaurant. I got 10 little boxes and put the mushrooms in each one and sent it to Thomas Keller, Danielle Ballud, Grant, just like with a note, like, if you're ever in Vermont, I'd love to cook for you, you know?
Did you know them?
No. I mean, I knew like 2 of them, but it was
right.
that to me was like, you want a beard award? Send Christmas cards every year to every chef you can think of. And I did that. I was just always trying to put myself out there.
Right.
But then you meet people and you continue to do that. But now with social media, I'm going, to see a Brewers game, find out who the chef is, send him a message on Twitter. He writes right back, meet me over here, and then you're buddies.
Yeah.
And then, like, he might come to the demo tonight. He texted me, like, let's hang out. And
so sweet.
That's what I try to do now is continue to do that. And again, through social media, like, you can follow everyone, see what they're doing, message them. Like, I don't have an assistant, I don't have a social media, I do everything my own. So if someone writes me and says, how do I get your book? Or I saw this recipe, or, why do you cook? Like, I can write right back, like, in, real time, like, oh, it's cool, thanks.
I always love that about you too, because it wasn't the layers of PR bullshit.
No, that's what I mean.
And it was like, no, it's Graham writing me back and saying, I'm literally 12 hours ahead of you, so here's, but great, let's take care of this.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think that's the best thing is, and again, if you're honest and you're genuine, that's what people want more than anything, whether it's a chef, a TV person, a friend, right? I mean, anything. If you don't have to act and you're just who you are, that people want that more than anything, and they'll commit to it.
Yeah. So is Danielle and Thomas and all those, they're now your friends, correct?
Yeah, right. Yeah, we hang out every, but really, I mean, I'll go and see them at events and again, go up, and I'm still, at this stage of my career, still go to Thomas Keller, and I'm just like, I want to thank you for everything you've done. You're such an inspiration. I'm such like that fanboy nerd, right? Like, because I mean, how many of us have like the torn up, busted up copy of the Blue French Laundry book? Like, it's one of the most important books of the last 50 years for chefs.
So he did a thing in Milwaukee, he's good friends with Paul, when Ad Hoc came out, and he did 2 events, and we shot with him for the show. And I'm like, I'm interviewing Thomas, like, geez, what intro do I do? Like, how do I even?
Right.
And we go from 2 restaurants, and then we go to a third where it's everything out of Ad Hoc, a dinner, and then he's going to speak. And he's tired.
He's not the most gregarious guy in the world.
No, and he's tired, and Thomas Keller just needs a glass of wine. So we're at the bar at Bacchus, and this is the best part. We're at the bar at Bacchus, and people start flooding in. And I'm like, just turn around, drink your wine, and I'll talk to the people. And 10 to 1, they won't even realize you're right there. So like 300 people showed up to meet Keller, and he was literally back to back with me while he had 2 glasses of wine.
That's amazing.
Friends like, oh, love the show, blah, blah, blah. You know, you're going to introduce them? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to introduce them, that kind of thing. And then I'm like, all right, you're free. You're good to go.
But see, isn't that amazing? Like, somebody like Thomas and Renee Redzepi and Grant Achatz, right? I mean, to me, it's like chefs are pilots, and then there's a couple Blue Angels, right?
Yeah,
and then there's like 4 or 5 astronauts in the world, and that's what those guys are. And again, as a chef, you're competing with them, and then you get to a point where you're like, you have to step back and be like, they're up here, and they're going to inspire you, and it's amazing. But those are guys that are not doing 10 shows, simultaneously, and doing 5 books and all these. Like, they're in the kitchen. They're cooking.
No,
they're very
chill.
Introverted. They're very nice, but they don't, start a bunch of stuff, and they don't And I think there's something to be said about that. People that like Danielle Ballud has been able to kind of do both. He'll do a guest thing here and there, but that guy, I've seen him go and kick somebody out of the way and like baste and slice and can do it. At age 90, I'm sure, like still bust out everybody in the kitchen.
I saw the same thing when he came to Milwaukee and cooked with Paul. And there was a chef that wasn't sauteing correct, and he was like, and he was polite about it.
Right.
But he
I've seen the same. All of us step back and we're like, oh.
And then he
like,
corrected the staff who were all about to go out of the course about how the napkins were folded and showed everybody, demonstrated how I was like, you're legit.
Again, it's like seeing, you know, Mickey Mantle at 60 still hit a home run. You're like, oh my, like you just step back and all of you guys, like all the other players are like, oh my God, it's amazing. Like seeing a chef, you know, I saw David Boulay do the same thing, came and did a guest chef dinner event, but he was working the fish station. Apparently he still does that. I'm like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. Like I just loved it.
Yeah. So
you never stop respecting, you know?
It's true. It's true.